Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Welcome back, everybody. It's week two on the Wandering Earth truck build, and we are officially on flake watch this morning. Yes, it was 75 degrees yesterday, but it's dipping down into the low 30s, and I'm looking out the window, and it is snowing, my friends. It is not anything that anybody with any real experience of snow would classify as snow, but for around here, this is nice. It just switched over. It was doing the rain and ugliness this morning. Woke me out of a sound sleep with the force of the rain and the gale winds, but it has lightly turned over to flakes of snow, and I'm probably not going to do any work today. I'm just going to stare out the window at it. No, we're going to be finishing up. We're going to be doing a lot more of the decaling today. Over the weekend, I did make good on my threat to finish the both sides of the trailer, and you'll be happy to know that those decals really did pucker in nicely around the all of the raised bobs and bits that they had to go around. So particularly this back gate. That back gate is a wonder of just how well everything settled into all the nooks and crannies. But today we are going to be working on the cab. The cab has got a good chunk of decaling to do on it. When I was doing the ones over the weekend, I also found that I had forgotten to do these guys, those stripes on the back, and I had to put them in behind the ladders, and that was fun. I did have to cut these ones up to make them fit the contours. If I had known, I would have, or if I had taken the time to figure it out, I would have waited to put those ladders on. And you'll see that on the front there are quite a few pieces that have not been put on, and those are the side mirrors and the front ladders for exactly that reason, because there's a lot of manhandling that has to get done putting decals on, and those tiny delicate details have to be the last thing to go on. I'm sorry, I'm distracted because I'm looking out the window at the, if I would say for like every 100 raindrops there was one flake of snow. It's very, very light. But of course the local news has gone on storm watch, and they're out driving around the neighborhoods. You don't understand what happened. If you don't live in this area, you don't understand how a switch gets flipped and everything goes into survival mode at the mere mention of the S word. Everything just snaps like that. It's like flipping on a switch. And we start getting the ticker of all the things that are shut down or shutting down or closing early or opening late because of it. It's quite comedic. If I didn't have it, since I don't have anywhere to go, to quote the old song, let it snow, let it snow. But if you have someplace to go, it can be quite inconvenient. But since I'm here, I am going to be bundled up on the couch looking out the window, I think. Luckily, I did not lose power. Have not lost power. They're reporting power outages because when the angels get together and breathe too heavily around here, the power will go out on a whim. So luckily, that I did have a blip this morning, but it came right back on. So I'm going to see how I can divide my attention today. I'm going to try to busy myself with fixing these decals and getting them down, and then maybe I'll put some artificial snow on top of it. I'll go outside and maybe sit the model in the. Oh wow! It just turned over. Oh yeah. Okay. Catch you later. I don't know how well you're seeing this. I'm on a high zoom here, but this is a rose bush or in my yard that just yesterday that rose had come out on it, and now it is being snowed on. Yes, we have some very confused flowers in our yard. That's North Carolina climate in one picture. A rose with snow on it. Well, lunch has come and gone, and mail call has arrived, and just as I had hoped, we have next week's, or the later of this week's, build in the mail. And you know what they say, it's a brand new year, and nothing cuts as smoothly as a brand new razor. So we will be working on the Razor Crest as soon as I finish this guy up. I'm sure many of you had already guessed that. The one thing that's always kind of not bugged me but concerned me about Revell kits is that they don't have shrink wrap on them, and you always have to wonder whether you got all of your parts. But this is nicely sealed up, so I'm not gonna be getting this thing out and glorying you with the part count on it just yet. I still have work to do on the Wandering Earth truck. Well, the decaling is progressing. I'm starting on this side now. Now, of course, this has got a lot of contours that these decals need to dry in and over top of. So it's going to be tomorrow, I think, before we finally have any closure on what those are going to look like. In case you're interested, it's now, the sun is now shining. It's warmed up again. Snow is nothing but a distant memory for the 9 flakes that hit the ground. That was probably our winter. I may regret to say that, but that was probably our winter. So I'm doing this area here now, and I really should have looked more closely at that before I painted up all of the rust on there, because that just ends up getting covered up with a decal. And then we've got all these little tiny markings and safety decals and that kind of stuff to go on next. Good morning, hello, and welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday, and we are finishing up the decaling today on the Wandering Earth cargo truck. Doing some of these little fiddly ones around the front. There are 1,000,006 of these tiny little, and the problem with them is you don't see them because they are white against the blue paper, so you have to kind of look at it in the light to see where it actually is. You see there's a number on it, and you trust that there's a decal associated with that number, and then you come to the realization that just because it's on the sheet does not mean you will be using it, because again, this is meant for 2 different variations of cab, and some of the decals go on one, and some of them go on the other, and then there are a few that are used on both. So you just have to you go through the instructions, you look at the numbers, and you line them up, and if you got them, you smoke them if you got them. If you don't, you just realize that that's going to go on the other version. So I am pleased to let you know that I got in between the bouts of having all 4 seasons yesterday. Once the snow finally melted, which, to be honest, it never reached the ground around here. It got to about 2 feet off the ground, stuck out his tongue and says, "I'm out of here." No, it never landed. It landed on some of the, like I showed that rose yesterday, it landed on some of the higher elevations, but the ground was still way too warm for it to sit there. So once that all passed yesterday, I was able to get a flat coat on the trailer. Flat clear coat, and that settled those decals in really well. I mean, well, you can see the decals, how they sucked in around the panels on that door. Just lovely. And now that the decals are down, and I've screwed the cab or the undercarriage to the top carriage or to the trailer, I can go back in and do one more slop coating of the rusting and all that kind of stuff, just to get it under here where it would naturally line up, and maybe on the front there. And then this will be ready for the snowing. I did not get this sprayed. You can still see it's kind of glossy because I didn't get that sprayed yesterday. But what I did, I mean, the flat coat did its job. It sucked everything in. Those decals look like they were painted on now. rather than looking like decals, which is frankly their job. So congratulations, it's doing its job. I've got a few more niggling little tiny decals to go in around here. I've got them mostly on this side. Oh, hush. Oh, and by the way, this bit here, the audio clip, if I said it the other day, I'll repeat it here. I found that bit on the movie. I don't know if I can get away with playing it without, pinging somebody's copyright law, but it's basically the startup. I watched it and I turned the captions on, or the closed captions, to see what it was they were saying. Basically, it's the startup. It's the automated voice that says, "Welcome, new driver. Be careful, be safe. A happy driver is a safe driver," type of thing. I'll see if I can find it later, but that's all it is. It's just your basic ignition sequence, which kind of makes sense. So we're going to let the ones that I have been putting on this morning dry, which includes these guys here on the front. And once these guys have dried, we'll fill in the tiny last ones that I have not put on. The problem with this, as soon as you touch one of these down, if you're going anywhere near it, you run the risk of bumping it. So you need to give it a little bit of elbow room. And then the last thing to do after that has been put on is the final ladders and the rear view mirrors and the turn signal lamps in here. Those type of things. Some tiny bits of see, look at these. These are the mirrors here. And they are way too delicate to put on before you are completely finished. Alrighty, it's been a day of doing the tiny decaling on the cab of the truck and walking away and then coming back and then putting another decal down and then walking away and coming back. But now everything has had a chance to get good and truly dry. And what I'd like to do at this point is to flat coat this so that I can start snowing it tomorrow. Well, the flat coat, before I put that on, I need to protect the windows. Not so much the headlights, but I do need to protect the windows. So I'm just going to get the little piece of tape out, just do a broad piece of right over top of that, and then these windows on the top, just to keep the flat coat from fogging them up. I mean, I'm going to put a little bit of snow around the corners of them, but there's no reason to excessively dull them so that you can't see into that lovely detailed cabin that we spent so much time on. Well, here's an interesting thing I hadn't counted on. It's a weird little reaction that the decals have had to the flat coating. I noticed it on the trailer, but I attributed it to something else. I thought it was something in the design that I hadn't seen that wasn't noticeable until everything had dried. But when you put these decals down and you pull them tight and you use the Solvaset and everything puckers down over the plating like it should, it kind of stretches those decals to their breaking point in some places. Well, when you put the spray over it, those breaking points become accentuated. Now, here's what I was thinking when I saw this the first time. I noticed it on the trailer this morning, and I thought it was a defect. I thought it was something that was baked into the decal that I kind of liked, and it looks like the paint is flaking off. It looks like if were this a real truck, since it's happening on a stress point, it looks like, oh, okay, well, the paint is flaking, like it's like a chipped paint that was baked into the design of the decal. It's not. It's what's happening when I spray it, because it happened most notably back here. Is it ate through these marks here where the decal was stretched fairly tight. I like it. It looks like a natural deformation of what would happen to a paint job. So I applaud that. I mean, I don't know if I could plan that to turn out like that. I really like how that's working. I don't want to spray. I don't want to spray it again for leave a good thing alone. But look what's happening here. It's like it's melting down underneath that decal. Now, anything that I don't like, obviously, I can cover up with snow, but it really hunkers things down around the plates here. You can see on this natural wear corner, it took the decal down to the white underlayment, which is neat. Let me see how it looks on this side. Yeah, it bangs it up just around the contours of the raised plating, which I really kind of like. Yeah, I got no beef with that at all. Got no beef with that at all. It looks like natural wear if you had painted these things and then the natural wear of them. Yeah, happy with that. Okay, that's going to dry tonight. We're going to come back to everything tomorrow, put the last level of griming on it, the splash griming on the trailer particularly, and then we'll be ready to snow it up. Good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, and today's lesson is in how to cut your losses. Putting in the tiniest of tiny parts, and you lose one. Well, you know that's going to happen. And what makes it worse is that it's clear. Of course it's clear, because that makes it the most difficult to find. The third thing is it is basically the size of two clear styrene molecules bonded together. That's the size of this part. And I have to say, on behalf of model builders everywhere, to the Chinese manufacturer of this kit, would it kill you to put some extras on the tree, for heaven's sakes? Duke us a couple of extra sets of these. And I'll show you what it is. I am so disgusted, and I'm going to just make myself do with something else. It is, now, I don't even know if I can get a camera in close enough. I had to break this piece off to even get the big one in, but it's the small one. It is the second, it is the lower clear piece headlight. It's this guy right here. And like I say, it's basically the width of two molecules pressed together. Here is the one that I do have. I am missing the other one. Now, I don't even know if I can get that to focus. But believe it or not, there's a part there. Of course, when you lose one, the natural reaction is to chuck the other one so that you're at least symmetrical. And I'm basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a drop of clear resin and harden it and basically make my own lens and replace that, because that's ridiculous. That level of detail is ridiculous, but B, expecting a person of my age and my eyesight and my manual dexterity to replace that. So as I said, I had to even remove the this one. I couldn't. I ended up breaking off the rear view mirror or the headlight assembly. This was the thing I was going to light, can you believe it or not? I had to remove that whole assembly just to get it to where I could put the large headlight covers in. I say large, they are only large in comparison, but good Lord, those are tiny. There's tiny, there's small, there's minuscule, and there is wee, and that is smaller than all of those things combined. Let me glue this guy back in place. We are doing nothing today but putting snow on these and then calling it done. There is one more ladder that needs to go on the side of the trailer. That's this guy. But I want to get some junking up done in behind that before I put that ladder on, because that needs to go on top of everything. So I'm going to weather up the floorboards here and put a bit of snow upon them, and then I'll put that ladder in place. But oh, there was also this part. This part is left over, and I could not, I'll go through them again, but I could not find them on the instructions anywhere. it is this piece, which is part of the, if I'm watching the movie, it's a big old set piece prop that is part of the, I believe it's part of one of the engines. I'd have to go back and see what the translation was for that. But I can't see in the instructions where that goes. It's basically the cargo that was outside of the truck. I can't, a better example, a better explanation of that I do not have right now. But these are the last two side mirrors to go on. And I'm debating now whether it's worth trying to put those on before I put, yeah, I better put them on before I end up covering up the holes with the weathering stuff. So let's get these last two little tiny mirrors out. And I'm thinking of using the, I want to see how well, and it's strange, even these, which are small parts, seem gigantic in comparison to the parts that I have been struggling to find. They are dust, the size of two dust motes. So these are the last two mirrors. That goes on. That's, yeah, I'll go ahead and put those on. I'm thinking I might want to take the Molotov though and try to paint in the mirror, actual mirror part of it. I was putting the last mirror in and I thought I had it in the wrong spot until I realized, well, the instructions told me to put it in the wrong spot until I realized the geometry needed. It's this one right here. There are no windows on this side of the truck, so how would you use a mirror there? It's meant to be used from this window and reflected back. That's why it hangs out so far and is angled so that you can see. Yeah, granted that you're probably depending more on radar and backup cameras and things like that than an actual mirror, but what the heck. And I scoured the instructions. I did not find this mentioned anywhere. I'm going to see if I can find a screen grab from the movie and show you what it looks like there. But yeah, we're ready for the snowing. Alright, so this is a still frame from the film showing the mysterious device here, and every time I run the cursor it pulls up the information again, so stop. But that's the device, black with a bunch of red lights on it. That's the size of a person, so that's about right. But I'm not an expert in Chinese, so I don't know what that part is called. I hear various things and then I can read the captions, but it's either part of the core engine or it's another referred to as something else. But that's what it is. I just don't see how it's used in the transport truck that we've got. It looks like they refer to it as the lighter core, in quotes. So there you go. Okay, I'm going to try this. I want to play the audio that's in the film of the same audio that's on the chip. But I probably will end up getting flagged for the copyright. So I'm hoping that I don't. But I'm wondering if I don't play anything but just the audio, if I'm going to get into that issue. So I'm going to run, and maybe you can read the subtitles, the captioning at the same time.
小哥，刘启，初级驾驶员，北京第3区交通委提醒您：道路千万条，安全第一条。行车不规范，亲人两行泪。
Okay, I just tried to run the audio clip, and if you heard it, then wonderful. If you didn't hear it, that means it was flagged for copyright, and I had to remove it. So, but that is the same clip as the audio bit here. So, we're down to doing nothing left but to do the snowing, and I have put this off long enough. It's time to get on with it. See, there you go. Now we're all locked in. It's weird that the cab in this does not pivot as far as much as it does in the movie. But so much the pity. Let's get out the Snowtex and a fine stipply brush. Yeah, or something like this. Give it a little mix, and we're just going to just start dabbing it on. There's no particular rhyme or reason for it. Just it's going to be on the top surfaces of things. I'm going to try to keep it in scale. That's the tough part, because it was easy enough to do this on Han and the Tauntaun because it was much larger scale. Here you want a very fine dusting because this is a much larger scale thing. Okay, I'm starting the snowing, and the obvious dabbing wasn't quite doing enough for what I wanted it to see. So I went back to my old bag of tricks. Now this is something that everybody knows who has done any sort of painting, acrylic painting, like on a canvas type of painting, and is trying to do a star field, and you know you can't do stars randomly by hand. They always end up looking placed. So you take a toothbrush or a real stiff brush, you dip it in here, and you do the whole finger flick. And you flick it like that, and that gets you good randomly placed stars. Well, it also works when you're putting snow on the top of a truck. Now I can direct this to particular areas that I think need to have a lot of coverage on it, but by flicking it, I get a much more random pattern than if I tried to put every little dot down by hand, because you just can't do it. The human brain won't let you paint something randomly. I know some people who, I had a teacher who once instructed me to use my non-dominant hand. I am left-handed. He said paint it right-handed, and you'll lose some of your tendency to make everything symmetrical. And I just feel that that's a whole bunch of overthinking, when all you really need to do is just take a brush and spatter it. Now, finding the right brush with the right stiffness, and then finding the right consistency of what you're spattering, that takes some practice and that takes some experience, and you'll know it when you've reached that particular bit of nirvana. But this will save you a heartache in the long run. Now, this is also another good reason why I rarely ever throw a brush away, because even a brush that's gone stiff from too much paint will have its uses when you're doing something like this. Now I'm going to go back in and lay snow heavier on areas where I think it would build up. But seeing that, starting with the spackle coat helps you get over your initial fear of laying a bunch of paint down or a bunch of snow down. These little gullies in here are a natural collection spot for snow to accumulate. But by speckling it around there rather than trying to make any obvious brush strokes. There. I gotta make sure I don't spatter anything on my camera lens. And then you can, lay some stuff on the highest points where snow is bound to accumulate. It's messy. It's messy, I'll tell you. You'll end up getting stuff all over the place, though. Lay down tarps or lay down paper towels, or be prepared to clean your work surface up. But and the more you do it, the braver you get about it. And you can change up your size of the brush and your stiffness in between, even on the same job here. I'm making sure I don't cover the camera cover, you know, so you don't see a wonderful shot of my arm instead of what you should be seeing. But this is the best way I have found to get randomly generated chunks of big and small chunks of snow, big and small stars, sizes that are much more randomly generated. And it'll put spots in where you don't even think you need them until you see them and you went, oh, that's great, I couldn't have planned that well. And it looks, all of a sudden it looks like your truck, snow speeder, whatever, tauntaun, has been put out in the snow. And I'll just go ahead and dab some up in here. Think about where the snow is going to accumulate and where it might not get brushed off. Now it's easy to think that it might accumulate on the tires, but then, you know, next time the tire goes around, it's going to wipe that off. But up in the fender wells, it might accumulate. Anybody who's driven up north knows what a fender berg is. That's where the ice has and the snow has accumulated up under the wheel well. Just some on the edge. And looking back at the film, I mean, there were scenes where these trucks were nothing more than moving snowbanks. They were very much covered. So the secret is to make it look, whatever you do to make it look even, so that it looks like it was all of a part, and not that the left side is got a whole lot more snow on it than the right side. I mean, you have to believe that these pieces of equipment are all in the same universe. Okay. And the secret is, again, one of the secrets, not that it's a secret, but the trick. I call it the trick. One of the crafts is, don't overdo it. Do it and then step away from it. Come back to it a little bit later. See if you need to add more. See if you're happy. It's easy to add more. It is a pain in the rumpus to try to remove it. But remember, your flat layers like this, that's where everything's going to accumulate. It's not going to accumulate on the sides, it's going to accumulate on the top. Now when I flip this thing around and you see the other side, you'll be shocked by the amount of stuff that's not on there. It's going to look all kinds of clean. So, and putting everything together like this, if I am pushing it down, I'm not trying to get in and around stuff. That's how, I mean, snow generally falls from the top to the bottom. So it's going to look like that. It's not going to go up underneath unless you're in a crosswind of some sort. It's not going to, it's going to accumulate where it lands. That's why this top is getting a whole lot more attention than the sides will, and certainly more than the bottom is going to be kicked up snow. It's all going to be stuff from the road, from the surface. Any drifts that it might have driven through, that's where you're going to see anything that hits the sides. So now I'm going to go in here with a Q-tip, and I am going to gently wipe off the windows just to keep anything from accruing too much there. I want it to be in the sides of the windows, you know, along the bottom windowsill. But you can imagine either it's heated or it's got a windshield wiper or something that's going to clean the snow off of the windows. So I'm always, when I'm brushing down in the direction of the snow. It's perfectly fine for it to accumulate on ledges of things. And when you put it on, you realize you're putting it on awful heavy until you have balanced it out in other areas. And then all of a sudden it looks more natural because it's all covered with the same amount. It would be like, I don't know, painting a room red. When you start painting the first wall, it looks like really sticks out and really noticeable, but by the time you've gotten the whole room painted, it is a lot less noticeable on that, or it doesn't stand out as much on that one wall. Again, any flat surfaces, that's where it's gonna accumulate. Okay, going back and realizing that I need to do some dirty snow. Some dirty snow that's going to be up under the wheel wells and things like that. I don't want to end up covering this thing too much. Even though in the movie they are nearly completely covered. I just want to be maybe a little more careful than that. But by introducing a dirty snow, it's going to give more depth and life to the white snow that's on top. The white snow will end up looking fresher, and the brown snow will look... No, there's not going to be any yellow snow. I know how you think out there. No yellow snow, but the brown snow looks older. It looks like it's been on there longer. So that's particularly going to be along the bottom parts. I haven't started anything on the driver's side, so let's stay away from there. But just adding some flecks. And it's weird, the more I try to put stuff down by hand, that's the stuff I end up being the less happy with. The more stuff I'm happy with is the speckled stuff. So I just need to go back to speckling. Trust the speckle. Use the speckle, Luke. Use the speckle. And again, I'm keeping the speckle on the bottom, on the trailer, on the cab, not on the trailer itself as such, but on the drivetrains and stuff where the dirty snow would be. And I want to make sure that I am covering up area there. That way I don't get snow down into where it wouldn't naturally go. Okay, I think I'm overdoing it. Let's flip it around and do the other side. I was curious about how much to do on the underside, because that would all be splashed up snow, or snow that was driven up into the wheel wells by the tires themselves, not the fallen snow. And that should be the real dirty stuff. Growing up north, that would be the road salt in the fenders, but I didn't see in the movie any particularly obvious indications of road salt that they use, so I'm just going to speckle the dirty stuff along the bottom, and then I'll come back in and do the white stuff on the top. Deciding how much goes on the tires themselves is also an issue, because the tires, while it's natural they would get snow on them, would also be the first things that would fling the snow off of them. so it doesn't really build up so much on there. Okay, I think I have snowed enough. Now obviously this is all a question of personal preference, and you have to ask yourself, you know, how much stress are you going to go through painting the rest, knowing that you're going to cover it all with snow. But I'm firmly of the camp that every little bit that you add lives there. You know that you've put it there. It appreciates being there. It all comes together. If I had just left that bare plastic and then slapped the snow on top of it, it wouldn't look the same, obviously. But I mean, it wouldn't look like all the steps are there. Even if something is covered up, the cumulative effect is still that all the work you put in it is still there. If that means anything to you. I don't know whether that's Zen and model making or what. But now I gotta clean all of this little snow stuff up because it gets everywhere, and it dries hard as a rock, and it feels like sandpaper. So let's get all this stuff cleaned up, and then I will walk away and see if I want to come back to it and see if it needs any more. I don't think it needs any more. I am quite happy with how this has turned out. I want to compare that with some screen grabs and show you that it's not too crazy after all. Okay, here's a quick screen grab from towards the beginning of the film of the two main characters entering the cab of I guess this was one of the big cargo trucks with the yellow cab or the yellow trailer on it. But you get an idea of just how much of these things were covered. If that's a typical wheel, you get an idea how much of these, how much snow was actually on them. And there you go. There you have it. Little snowy. I'm thinking, looking back at that and wondering if I overshot it. I think I may have just a bit. It's one of those things that looks better it would look better in a diorama than it does by itself without an appropriate snowy, background. If it was out, if I had any actual snow outside, I could set it outside and it wouldn't look just like it blended right in. But yeah, it looks a little frosted, but I think it will do. And that brings us pretty much to the end of this build. I see I got the nice drop cloth out, which means I must be finishing up. Again, still no, for the core engine here, I will pop it in the back, and it can roll around like a BB. There's no real other place for it. No place for it to go, so we'll stuff it in here. This would make a nice little safe, personal safe. You put something in there, put it up on the shelf. Nobody would ever think to look in there. But that brings us to the end of this Wandering Earth truck. And on to the next kit, I guess. That, friends, is going to be where we're going to finish the Wandering Earth truck. Now, yeah, I can see it. When you get right up on it, it does look pretty darn nice. It's from a distance, it looks like there's just too much stuff going on. But when you get right up on it, it actually looks better. So this would be the opposite of a tenor. This would be the opposite of a kit that looks better from a distance. This one actually looks better the closer you get to it. And when you, of course, have to see this with a light over it, but when you shine a light down into the cab, you can see the two pilots straight through the window. So that was a little bit better of a design than I was going to give it credit for. So this is ready for the long shelf that I've got set aside for it. Of course, I still got this thing. I don't know exactly what to do with. That's a heck of a lot of an extra piece to be dealing with. But who knows, it might make its way into a kit bash in the far future. Next week's kit is already here. I'm staring at it. It is sitting right behind the camera. It's something I know everybody's going to be a lot more interested in seeing me do. It is the Razor Crest. It is the third Razor Crest, if you count the little Bandai Razor Crest that I did and then the 3D printed Razor Crest. This will be the third one, so what the heck, I'll do, anything worth doing is worth doing twice or 3 times or more. And I think what I'll first do is to compare that to the proportions of some of the other stuff, just so you can get a glimpse at it. But that's next week's video, or maybe even later this week's video. See, today is Wednesday. I conceivably could put this finish up today and then start doing razor cresting on the morrow. So I think that may be what I do. So until then, until a very short time from now, y'all be good. Be good to yourself, be good to each other, and we'll see you here next time.